Oh, yes, hi, and welcome to the Dark Knight Conspiracies, episode 57. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, and it's still the worst of times. Well, I'm back from my hiatus, people, and if anybody's wondering, no issues, just hard to focus and concentrate because everything is changing on a day-to-day basis. But I thought I'd take this moment after the fact to let's go back in time. 2001, 9/11. Where were you? And this is going to be a personal story. Most of you probably don't even remember it. I do. I was in my mid-30s, worked for a manufacturing company. I was a manager, and normal day going through, and this was the time where not everybody had a cell phone. So if you were at work, and of course back then, not like you sat on the internet every day, you didn't have any idea of what was going on. And I get a phone call on my cell phone from a friend of mine who happened to have the luxury of listening to the radio, and gives me the news. Hey, a plane hit one of the towers. And I'm like, I didn't think much of it. I'm like, okay, accident. So I didn't think much of it. So I ran up to the tool shop in my company, who I had friends there, and we all had nicknames, and I'll just refer to them as Maletta, Peludo, and Peanut Head. And I told him, I says, hey, a plane just hit one of the towers. And again, nobody panicked, nobody thought anything of it. So we went about our business and went back to work. And I don't have the factual time because I wasn't keeping track. But I want to say it was like 20 minutes later, I got another phone call from my friend and said, hey, a second plane just hit the towers. Now I'm worried. So I went back up there and told the tool room guys, and they happened to have a TV in the office, and they plugged it in, so we started watching it live. And it was then we all sat there in awe, and we started to talk amongst ourselves, and we said there's no way that this is coincidence, that we're being attacked. And we saw a lot of footage of what was on TV, and I'm going to tell this story just from a personal side. I'm not going to get into what I believe and the conspiracy theories and all that, because that comes later on down the road, which I'm sure we're all at that point. But back then, nobody thought of this type of stuff, at least not your normal Americans. So then we started to watch, and for most of the management team, or at least me and the tool room, everything stopped. And then one of the owners came in, and rather than bark at us about, get back to work, go do your jobs, he was in there with us, and with good reason. We had many employees that were Muslim, so there was a business aspect to this and how people would react. So I'm sure he had two factions going on in his brain. So we sat there and watched, and we were just astonished. And then the one tower collapsed, and we watched it live. And we were like, oh my God. And then we said, oh, the second one's going to go down too. And that, I think, came like 30 minutes later. Then we started to learn about Pennsylvania and the Pentagon. And in our lifetime, this was amazing. We weren't alive in World War II when Pearl Harbor happened. And there was a dreadful thing that happened during then. And that was the internment camps. And we're not going to go down there. But people were thinking this back then. People were, God bless Art Bell, and you can go look in his archives. He did 5 straight nights of talking about this with open lines. And the hatred and some of the vitriol of some of these people about what should be done. And I'm going to go back to, what did we get out of this? Well, we united as a country, right? Everybody who was around to remember this, we united. Congress passed the Patriot Act with no problem. And as I've said often, everything starts out with good intentions. But when you start to see what the intentions were, you can kind of see what road this led us down. It was the beginning, and this is where you get your conspiracy theories from, right? The ends justify the means. So I'll just leave it at that. And we had a lot of heroes that day. The people, the police, the firefighters. We had a lot of heroes that day. And we cannot express our gratitude more than we already have. We cannot give comfort to these families. And also the ones that lost their lives with the after effects. You know, the stuff in the air, the stuff that caused cancer, what have you. But what it leads me to, after living through that, we have lost our unity. Seeing what's going on, I'll group it all together, these last 4 years. But more specifically, these last 7 months. Where's the unity? Somehow we lost our path. We were more united as a nation back then than we are now. And why? Pretty obvious. We saw what came out on Thursday by the administration. I'm not going to recognize them. Do the research. This is not a vaccine. I'm going to say it. It's not approved. It's only approved under emergency authorization. For 4 years, we got told who was going to be a dictator, who was going to not relinquish power. Well, Trump walked away. January 20th, he walked away. So now who's the dictator in your mind? I don't know, I think it's pretty obvious. You start issuing mandates, go for it. The problem is you got people that are on your side. I won't divide the country, but actually he is. That's his words. I will unify this country. No. It's no different than 2008, 2012. No different. The question I have, and I do believe a lot of people have woken up. And make no mistake, I got issues with the other guy. Believe me. And the delays. I mean, you just look around what's going on. I mean, this Arizona audit started in May. It's still going on. And it's kicking the can down the road. Now, some could say these are chess moves. I buy it. But what people are getting frustrated with now, give us something. We're not getting anything. Everything's, oh, this is happening behind the scenes. That's happening behind the scenes. Well, you know, the problem with that is you can't vet it. And if you can't vet it, why talk about it? Case in point. Not going down that road. If I can't prove anything, not talking about it. Oh, this person's been arrested. Military tribunals are going on. Nope, not in my world. Till you start showing me something. Hasn't happened. Period. Got to deal with logic here, people. And the logic is, this thing's getting out of hand. And it's getting out of hand pretty quickly. Now, September 20th is a very interesting date because we got a lot going on here. We got Congress coming back into session. We got Gavin Newsom's election. Oh, we got Justin Trudeau's election. What a coincidence. All these things are going on the same day. And what's Congress trying to do? They're trying to pass a $3.5 trillion budget. Well, lo and behold, Janet Yellen sends a letter to Speaker Pelosi saying, you need to solve this debt ceiling thing because we're out of money come September 30th or, shortly in October. We're going to run out of money. Here's my prediction. Somehow, because they can't get this thing passed, you got Manchin coming out saying he's not going to vote for it. Sinema's been saying she's not going to vote. Well, there's 2 Democratic senators. They can't get this bill passed. What do you think's going to happen? Well, Nancy Pelosi's going to make a speech. She's going to roll this resolution continuance into the infrastructure bill and basically threaten members of Congress and the people that, look, if you don't pass this, the government shuts down, the market's going to crash, and you're going to lose all your pensions and 401ks. They're going to use fear again. If you can't see, they're running out of ammunition here. And again, I know I'm on a small portion here with these theories because a lot of people are turning, they're frustrated. We hear a certain individual has it all, they've had it all, but yet nothing's coming out. Although it's coming out in drips and drabs. But I'm still willing to give the individual a chance to a certain degree. I predicted by January, if things don't turn around, it's all she wrote. I'm sticking to that prediction. been a weird weekend for me. I've had a lot of mixed emotions. A lot of tributes out there over the weekend and everything. I'm thinking gut-wise, shit's gonna start rolling downhill. Now, why do I say that? Well, it's been announced for everybody out there bitching about Arizona. The Senate's having a hearing on the 21st. That's a key date. Think about what I just said about everything happening on the 20th. And the Senate's going to vote whether or not to decertify the election. Now, according to General Flynn on his Greg Hunter interview this weekend, there's somebody we got to watch out for. It's a Republican senator named Boyd. And he claims he's a McCain never-Trumper. This guy supposedly has the swing vote for this whole thing. And pretty much, General Flynn, he pretty much told you how this is going to play out, people, which we've already known. If Arizona does not decertify this election, which, by the way, by the process of this hearing being on the 21st, that means stuff is going to start dropping next week as far as what evidence they have, because they got to get the public on board, right? Well, Arizona don't decertify, what are the other states going to do? Oh, Georgia's going to say, well, shit, if they can't get anything done in Arizona, why would we spend all this time and money? Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, yep, shut it all down. We're not going to waste any time and money on this. So I can see that being the plan. And I'll be very surprised if it doesn't happen that way. I love being surprised, so let's see what happens. Now, what I think is interesting, and I'm really gonna go off base here, and I'm gonna get into my biblical roots, and I really don't care what religion. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. My body, my choice. Everybody has their own personal choice when it comes to healthcare after this debacle. But at what point are you going to become sheep, or are you going to stand up against it? I mean, this is what we're really against. I mean, you look at these countries, France, Australia, Italy. These people are standing up and they don't have what we have. And you know what I'm talking about. Is the rally in September 17th a trap? Very well maybe. I mean, we saw what happened on January 6th. I got no reason to believe it's not going to be. And we just went through, you people that aren't accustomed to it, you really need to research the Jewish calendar holidays, because major things always happen during these time periods. And we just went through the Feast of Trumpets, and on the 15th, Yom Kippur starts, which is the Day of Judgment. So I just encourage you, I'm not going to get into a big lecture about this, I just encourage you to research it, to see what it's all about, because it gives you a totally different perspective that, again, this is God's timeline. This is not ours, this is not Trump's. This is God's timeline on how all this is working out. Now, with that being said, I am going to, because one of my fascinations growing up was Nostradamus, so I am going to bring up a couple of interesting things. And again, predictions, right? It's conspiracy. Can't be proven till after it happens. So let's start with before 9/11. Nostradamus, Century 10, Quatrain 72. In the year 1999 and 7 months, the great king of terror will come from the sky. He will bring back the Khan of the Mongols. Before and after, Mars rules happily. Now some would say he was only 2 years off with this prediction. But what I think is interesting with this whole thing is this quatrain. I believe this is Quatrain 8, or Century 8, Quatrain 77. The Antichrist very soon annihilates the three. 27 years his war will last. The unbelievers are dead, captive, exiled, with blood, human bodies, water, and red hail covering the earth. Now, why am I bringing that up? Well, what was yesterday? The 20th anniversary. That leaves 7 years left. And again, these are my beliefs. I am not quoting anything other than my personal beliefs. That leaves 7 years. If anybody that knows anything about tribulation, the tribulation lasts 7 years. When was the Twin Towers attacked? 2001. This war has gone on since then until now. That leaves 7 years left, which some believe we're in pre-trib, some believe we're in trib. Who's to say, you know? Only God tells you. Nobody will know the time or the place upon his return, but he does give you signs. This is something interesting to play around with, in my opinion. Because we could be in this 7 years where we're at the point where possibly everything gets discovered, people go to jail, what have you. 3.5 years from now would take us into mid-2024, and then the other 3.5 years would lead to 2028, 2029 time frame. Just throwing it out there. Again, could be 1,000 years off. But I just thought I'd point these things out. And I do believe there's a lot of disinformation going on out there, from what I watch and who I follow. It's funny how all of a sudden not everybody's on the exact same page. You get bits and pieces here and there. One thing's for certain, and I can tell you this, I don't know when, but the financial system will collapse. It's just a question of when. We're seeing the inflation. We're seeing all this stuff. And every day it's a narrative change. You know, the only reason this whole stuff came out on Thursday is they had to get off the Afghanistan stuff. Now the reports come out that the drone hit a family of innocents. They had water. We're losing the focus on what the real objective, and the real objective is Arizona. This is a narrative change battle. Both sides are fighting for the news narrative. And that's why you're seeing all this stuff coming out on a day-to-day basis. This is why I've held back. This is a lot to process. You listen to some people. No, it's not a lot to process. This is going according to plan. Well, you know the problem is nobody's told me what the plan is, and these people can't either. Oh, they can go to a certain board. Okay, well, some of this stuff is 2-3 year deltas. How do we know some of this stuff isn't 10-year deltas? Okay. Ideal in reality, ideal in logic. Yeah, a lot of that stuff's interesting. Yeah, a lot of that stuff has some proof to it. You can point to the timestamps and the proofs. The problem is, we don't know how much longer this is going to go down the road. So I'm willing to give some time here to see how this plays out. Now, is it going to get ugly? Absolutely. Don't think there's a sugar coating to this. If you think it's bad now, it's going to get bad later on down the road. Because in order to fix this, you have to take it all down. And I mean all of it. I'm talking school systems, government, education, everything, intelligence, everything needs to be busted up. You think that's going to get fixed in a couple months? No way, folks. No way. So I'm sorry I kind of veered off into this last part of the video. I really wanted to share my personal story of where I was and what transpired. And some of you may be able to come up with the same thing and reminisce about where you were. Others of you probably have no clue. You were probably too young and don't remember. But boy, I remember, and I'll leave it at this. We unified back then, given what happened. We have gone back 50 years compared to what's going on now. Why can't we unify? And I think the answer's pretty obvious. It's unbelievable to think we took that many steps backwards from what happened. And with that, I'll leave you with a good night. Be strong, stay safe, stay vigilant. Repent, seek out the Lord. And God bless all of you. And with that, I'll bid you a good night and take care, everybody.